Hello and welcome to Procontation Points video Snark. I'm making my way through Born at Midnight by CC Hunter. If you haven't seen the other videos, you might want to do that before jumping into this one, or else you might be confused. Links will be posted below. I also wanted to give a big shout out to those who are already supporting me on Patreon, Dawn and Phoebe. If you want to hear your name next week, either make a pledge to support me on Patreon, where you will have early access to my regular Snark, but also bonus Snark that can't be found anywhere else. However, I will also accept donations via PayPal or Ko-fi if a one-time donation is more your speed. Links will be posted below. Chapter 40. Despite all of the drama and build-up of the possibility that Kylie had died at the end of the previous chapter, much like the rest of this book, the opening of the next chapter is insanely anticlimactic. For a brief moment, Kylie finds herself in the body of Daniel, and then she's back in her own body. Sky and Burnett show up with a bunch of other FRU guys and start slapping handcuffs onto the vampires, who I guess just kind of stand there and accept this without putting up any sort of a fight. Whatever, the book is almost over, so I'm not sure that I care anymore. Sky planted the blood that you guys found that led back to the camp. She helped those rogues take the animals, but she came to our defense in the end. Anybody else feel like this kind of came out of nowhere? Sky was barely a character this entire time, and then suddenly, it was her all along! This is the big twist at the end of those Stalking Jack the Ripper novels all over again. Zero build-up, zero foreshadowing, just some random minor background character who did it because reasons. However, Sky says that a mysterious they have her sister and threatened to hurt her if Sky didn't agree to help them. She largely went along with it because they'd promised nobody would get hurt. She says this a couple of times while looking directly at Kylie, which is the strangest part to me, because I don't think that Kylie really cared much either way until the lion showed up in her room. So in the end, them putting the lion into Kylie's room was the thing that uncovered, well, not all of this, because I feel like Sky was just a puppet to these people, but at least this one little bit. Burnett presses Sky as to who they are. The Blood Brothers, a band of vampires who think that the camp is corrupting future members. She goes on to say that they aren't the only ones who have been thinking along the same lines recently. And then Holiday shows up, 15 minutes late, and couldn't even be bothered to bring Starbucks, and naturally she's insanely confused as to why Sky is in handcuffs and 3 of the kids are there. Later, the 3 kids are looked over by a doctor who pronounced them to be fine. Burnett then gives all them involved in Kylie's plan a stern talking to about how dangerous that it was. However, as his lecture goes on, Kylie interrupts to ask if the camp is still going to be closed down, but despite the fact that it's exactly what these literal terrorists want, Burnett says that they are going to close it down. Holiday is also upset that they wouldn't have even come to them for help when they thought that they might have a clue. "Why should we come to you?" Kylie asked. "You didn't trust us enough to tell us what was going on." "Yes, we know that you're the camp leader, but we're not in kindergarten here. You say that we're here to learn how to cope with the outside world, but then you try to shield us from anything that might be the least bit unpleasant. And let's say if we did come to you with this, I don't think that you'd let us do it because you'd be worried that it could be dangerous." I'm not saying that Kylie is wrong exactly, but at the same time, this is exactly why it is that they aren't going to trust you, or any other teenager, in the future. However, as Kylie turns her wrath upon Burnett, Holiday suddenly takes Kylie's side, and then she randomly says that they're going to be turning the camp into school, because, ugh. As if the camp wasn't bad enough, now I'm going to have to read about the dumb school and the rest of the series. She goes on to explain that it's for people like Della who are turning supernatural but can't quite leave their families behind. She also says that Burnett's boss has been a supporter of this school for a long time now, which seems to be directly contradicting everything that the FRU have been doing this entire time, but sure. Later, Kylie mentions that Chan wasn't there, but Della already knew that. Della also confirms that Sky really didn't know about the lion, which didn't think that she was lying about that, but okay. Kylie then leaves her friends to go talk to Derek about what just happened. He says that he pushed too many emotions into the vampires all at once and it shocked them until they passed out. He asked Kylie about Daniel, but she doesn't exactly say much about that before she keeps pestering Derek with questions about the lions and Sky. And then they kiss, because of course they do. Kylie says that it was just a weak moment and Derek sort of teases her about it. And then, as Holiday had mentioned earlier, the next day is Parents' Day again, and they have to pretend like literally nothing happened. Kylie's mom comes in and Kylie notes that she doesn't really look much like her mom. And this is going to be relevant again later, isn't it? Like maybe some sort of switch to birth thing or something equally stupid. But before the parent day can get any further, Holiday stands up and says that Sky is taking a leave of absence and her place will be Burnett. And then she says that the camp is going to be turned into a school. Kylie kind of expects for her mom to be excited about the school thing, but mom is oddly kind of non-responsive about the entire thing. And then Kylie feels murdered because she wants to attend the school. Kylie suggests to her mom that they should take a walk, and then they swing by the cabin so that Kylie can get a blanket for them to sit on outside. In the cabin, Kylie's mom is surprised by the kitten and says that it reminds her a lot of their old cat. She then says that when Kylie's mom had her first sonogram when she was pregnant, the dad gave the cat to her as a present, which it is really insanely obvious that the authors did not have children. That is just an awful idea. Have a new cat and a newborn at the same time. Whee! But it's clear that these are some bad memories for Kylie's mom. Kylie just feels angry over what her father did to their family. Kylie's mom asks if she's spoken with the father. Kylie says that he knows Kylie's number, but this just seems to upset the mom more. But at the same time, the dad is the one who walked away. Kylie has reached out to him a lot, and at this point, this is all on him. You can't have a relationship where one person is doing 100% of the work 100% of the time. Kylie's mom mentions Dad's work taking up a lot of his time, and I think that Kylie finally snapped and asked why it is that the mom threw his underwear onto the grill. Chapter 41. Picking where we left off at the end of chapter 40, Kylie's mom says that the underwear grill thing was not exactly her proudest moment. She goes on to say that she had hoped to shield Kylie from her father's scoundrel rays, but Kylie says that she caught her dad in a lie and knows exactly what he's doing with his young assistant. They go to a place by the creek where Kylie spreads out the blanket. Her mom remarks about how pretty that it is and then asks if it's true that there's a waterfall. Kylie says that it's what the other kids say, but most are too afraid to go because there's rumors of ghosts. And then her mom says that she likes ghost stories. Kylie then brings up the topic of how the camp is going to be turned into a boarding school. Kylie says that she wants to go to the school, but her mom says no. No, her mom said, let me make this clear. Hell no. You have a home, and it's with me. This seems like a complete and utter 180 from the beginning when Kylie's mom couldn't wait to get rid of her. However, this only just makes Kylie more determined to attend the school. And the second realization was that her mom didn't want to get rid of her. Kylie had been so sure, so certain that given the choice, her mom would have packed Kylie a little knapsack and had her out the door in no time. They say all of this, but not even a month earlier, and Kylie's mom had all but yeeted Kylie onto the bus. And I don't think that I would necessarily mind Kylie's mom realizing that she misses having her daughter around, except the only other time that she's shown up, she was cold and emotionally distant towards Kylie and left as soon as she possibly could. If the book wanted to show us that Kylie's mom had changed her attitude about this, then maybe the narration should have shown something to indicate this sudden change of heart. Kylie then offers up some good reasons why she should stay and attend this school. First off, being that her mom has always been pestering her to belong, to join clubs and the like, and this is something that Kylie feels like she actually belongs in. Her mom brings up Sarah, and while Kylie says that they're still friends, she admits that they've begun to drift apart. Finally, they ace up Kylie's sleeve. Mom had mentioned something about a new job that requires a lot of travel. Mom suggests that while she's gone, Kylie can be with her dad, but Kylie is like, really, Mom, with his latest girlfriend who is only a few years older than I am? But this makes the mom say that she'll turn the promotion down because her daughter clearly needs her. And it's not like I'm complaining about the mom suddenly stepping up to the plate, but where was all of this unconditional love and support at the beginning when Kylie felt like her life was literally in the toilet? Mom was so eager to get rid of Kylie even for a little bit, which is going back to my main complaint about how this seems like a complete 180 attitude change. Kylie says that the initial thing is to let the students go home on the weekends and the camp is only 3 hours away, which does seem like a fair enough deal. But Mom brings out the ultimate mom card. But you're my baby! And again, I'm here for this, but... And then Kylie randomly asks her mom who her real dad is, which, okay, where did this come from? And last but not least, chapter 42. Kylie's mom asks if the dad had told Kylie that he wasn't her actual father, but Kylie says that she just had a feeling, which would have been nice to see that Kylie felt like her dad wasn't her biological dad before this second, but sure. And then Kylie seems to think that Daniel is her father, which, okay, again, this is coming out from nowhere. There was zero build up to this at all. Just, oh, my father is Daniel, isn't it? But she says that she'd been feeling like Daniel looked familiar to her, but she couldn't figure out how she knew him. But then she realized that she knew him because he looks a lot like her. Which, yes, the book did establish that Daniel felt familiar to her, but at the same time, Kylie suddenly realizing that she looks like Daniel came from nowhere. However, Kylie can't tell her mom that she's been seeing the ghost of her biological father, because that would be weird. Instead, she just says that she doesn't look like her dad. This story is this. Kylie's mom met Daniel at a gym where he worked. He was charming and asked her out. However, he said that he was going to be shipped out in 3 weeks, so they had a bit of a whirlwind romance. She tells Kylie never to do this, but says that she knew right away that Daniel was the one. He promised her that when he got back, they would get married and he would introduce her to his family. They lived in Dallas, so she's never met them. But 2 weeks after he left, she realized that she was pregnant. She wrote to him to tell him about the baby, and when he didn't respond, she naturally assumed that he just didn't want to have a baby and cut her off. But then she saw the notification of his death in the paper. And then comes in the man who raised Kylie. He'd been kind of in the mom's life for a while, and the mom described their relationship as on again, off again. He'd been pestering Kylie's mom for a date for a while, but she was still dealing with the fact that her boyfriend had been killed in the Gulf. He continued to pester her because that's what every woman wants, right? He couldn't stop asking me until I eventually gave in and said yes. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. They went to a coffee shop where Kylie's mom told him that she was pregnant, and then the dad proposed to her on the spot with only one condition, that she never tell anybody that the baby wasn't his, and being 18 and pregnant and afraid of what her parents would do, the mom agreed. The, the mother and daughter then sit and talk about a lot of things, which is mercifully skimmed over. As they're sitting there, Kylie feels another presence, and although she can't see her Nan, she knows that Nan is close by. Eventually, they get back to the topic of the man who raised Kylie. Although the mom never said as much, he always knew deep down that he was always going to be in second place. And you can't live your life knowing that you're never going to be loved in a marriage and it doesn't start to negatively impact your life. You do start to resent that person and begin to feel trapped. And I'm reading all of this and I'm still struggling to summon any sympathy for Kylie's dad, mainly because he's the one who agreed to help the mom out, knowing full well that the kid wasn't his and that the mom was still hung up over her dead boyfriend. He didn't have to do that. He made himself suffer for 16 years because reasons. And much to my surprise, Kylie is sort of on my side. She says that he should have just asked for a divorce rather than to start sleeping around. Later, Kylie goes to Holiday and says that relationships are hard. She then says that Daniel is her biological dad. Holiday says that she suspected, but that kind of just pisses Kylie off because she didn't say anything to Kylie about it. Kylie then asks for advice about her love triangle. She feels like after Lucas left, it should have made her decision a lot easier, but she also brings up about how Dirk can manipulate emotions and she'll always be wondering if she's actually feeling that or not. Holiday tries to reassure her that Derek isn't the kind of person who would do something like that, but the fact remains that he does have this ability. However, I'd like to weigh in on this. Why is Kylie acting like her only two options in the entire world are abandonment or emotional manipulation? Like, there are other guys out there, plus she's 16. Maybe she should just focus on her studies. And maybe this does make me sound like an old lady, but like, you know it's all over for you when you start agreeing with the adults in young adult novels. Not like Holiday said this to Kylie or anything, but she should have. Even at the camp, there are a lot of other boys Kylie's age, and we don't hear about any of them. Holiday then gives Kylie an envelope and says that it's from Lucas. Kylie asks if Lucas wrote to Holiday and if he said that Frederica was with him or not. Holiday agrees that Frederica is with Lucas. Kylie leaves the cabin and thinks about her Lucas versus Derek situation. She feels upset that Lucas is with Frederica, but knows that there isn't anything that she can do to change that or her feelings for Lucas. She does not read the letter. Just as Kylie makes up her mind to go join the others as they celebrate the camp being turned into school, another ghost comes, a woman who cries to stop and undefied him, or else he'll do it again. Derek shows up to interrupt this, and Kylie is determined to have fun with Derek tonight. They go to the cafeteria, where Kylie stops and looks at all of the different couples. And Della, whose singleness is unintentionally but awkwardly highlighted during this end wrap-up. And on that note, Born at Midnight comes to a close. Overall, this story was somewhere in the middle. It wasn't some raging dumpster fire, but I also would not classify this as being good by any means. The story stumbled along for a while, not really seeming to go anywhere, but persistent enough to push on. The actual conflict seems like it was tacked on at the last second. There was a little build up to it, but things like Sky having been trying to sabotage the camp was just so random. And then there was the business of Daniel being Kylie's biological dad. Again, it just seemed like it was shoved in at the last second, and it was insanely random. The actual writing of the book was kind of okay too, but the author suffered from zigzagging between unrelated points within a couple of paragraphs, but she was also insanely stuck over the idea that every single chapter needs to end on a cliffhanger, which I've spoken about at length during my read through. So, yeah, that's Born at Midnight. There are 3 other books in this series, and like with Stalking Jack the Ripper, I'm going to be doing the rest of the Born at Midnight series on Patreon, which I will eventually get around to reading the rest of the series. Eventually. My queue over there is honestly getting a little out of hand, but whatever. I've already read this book and I need closure for the rest of the series. And finally, the announcement of my next video, Snark, which is going to be Fallen by Lauren Kate. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for my channel so that you'll be reminded of the first video for that next Monday. Don't forget to check out my other video of Snark of Stalking Jack the Ripper and The Plan. If you've already seen those, then you can head over to Tumblr for my main book, Snarks. And if all of that is somehow still not enough for you, then you can become my Patreon supporter for just $1 a month and read a bunch of bonus Snarks that aren't up anywhere else. Plus, Patreon supporters get a weekly shoutout in all of my videos. Also, if you want to read some of the stuff that I've published, and you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have 17 erotic short stories, 1 short story collection, and 1 full-length novel. Links will be posted below. See you next week, guys!